For years, he kept everything buried inside. The pain, the fear, the truth. While millions of fans watched him grow from a teenage sensation into a global superstar, very few understood what he was actually going through. Behind the cameras, behind the interviews, behind the headlines, a much darker reality was unfolding. Justin wasn't just struggling with fame. He was dealing with something far deeper. Something he was too afraid to speak about. Something that involved powerful figures, powerful names, and experiences that continued to haunt him long after the spotlight faded. One of those names was Sean Combs, known to the world as Diddy. While the public focused on the glamorous side of the industry, Justin was navigating situations no young person should ever have to face. He stayed quiet, afraid of what speaking up might cost him. He buried those memories, hoping they would disappear. But they never did. They stayed with him, quietly shaping his decisions, his behavior, and his silence. Now everything has shifted. The investigations surrounding Diddy are exposing a side of the music industry that many tried to look past. Victims are speaking out. Accountability is finally being demanded. And Justin has reached a point where silence is no longer an option. This is no longer about image or avoiding conflict. This is about truth. This is about justice. This is about healing. For the first time, Justin is ready to speak about what really happened. He is opening up about what he experienced, what he witnessed, and how deeply it marked him. And he is not just telling his story. He is bringing evidence. Real messages. Real moments that connect him to a much larger and far more disturbing picture of what was happening behind closed doors. What he reveals is not easy to hear. It is raw. It is painful. It is honest. This is not just another celebrity story. It is a young man reclaiming his voice after years of silence. This is Justin Bieber finally saying enough is enough. Back in the day, Sean Combs presented himself as a mentor. Someone who could guide Justin through the chaos of the industry. But now, with federal charges hanging over his head and disturbing allegations continuing to surface, people are looking back at everything with a very different perspective. Old clips that were once seen as harmless moments between a rising star and a music mogul are being re-examined under an entirely new light. One video in particular has resurfaced and sparked major discussion online. In that footage, Justin is just 15 years old. Sean Combs is seen handing him the keys to a car, telling him it would be waiting every time he came to Los Angeles, and mentioning that Justin had been staying with him for a couple of days. At the time, it may have looked like an innocent gesture on camera. But now, in the middle of a high-profile investigation involving serious accusations, that same clip is raising serious concern. Social media has been flooded with questions. People are asking why a teenager still finding his footing in the music industry was spending time alone with a grown man now facing grave allegations. They want to know whether anyone was truly protecting Justin, or whether he was simply another young artist left around the wrong influences at the wrong time. Sean Combs' legal team maintains his innocence, and he has pleaded not guilty. But the situation has drawn intense public scrutiny regardless. Resurfaced footage of a violent incident involving his former partner Cassie Ventura has only added to that scrutiny. Prosecutors alleged she was attempting to leave one of his events when she was met with violence, and the widely reported video has raised even more questions about what was happening behind closed doors. No one is claiming Justin was directly involved in any of those situations. But the connection between them is enough to keep people asking questions. The time they spent together is documented, and the public is no longer willing to dismiss old moments as harmless without looking deeper. When that old clip shows a young Justin smiling nervously as Sean Combs jokes about having custody of him for the weekend, it feels different now. The context has shifted. The world has changed. And people are no longer willing to ignore what might have been happening beneath the surface. That video captures a moment that, in hindsight, many find deeply unsettling. Combs laughs about spending 48 hours with Justin and another boy, saying they are having the times of their lives, adding that they cannot really disclose what they are doing, only that it is every teenage boy's dream. When Justin is asked what he wants to do, he goes along with the joke. At the time, it may have looked like harmless banter. A kid trying to keep up with a room full of adults. But viewed now through an entirely different lens, the questions it raises are hard to dismiss. Why was a grown man making those kinds of jokes around a minor? Why were they being filmed and shared so publicly? And why did no one around Justin stop and say this was not acceptable? This would not be the last time the two appeared together. Several other clips have since emerged. In one of them, Combs calls Justin out for not staying in touch the way they used to, and Justin replies that Combs never actually had his number. It is an awkward moment caught on camera, with Justin visibly unsure of how to respond. Another video shows Combs presenting Justin with an award at the American Music Awards. One more captures a birthday celebration where Combs is again present. And perhaps the most unsettling clip is one that viewers describe as Combs appearing to pat Justin down, almost as though checking for a recording device. The moment is brief, but the tension in it is visible. No one can say with certainty what was happening in that moment. But people are talking. These clips, viewed one after the other, are being pulled apart and analyzed online. Some say the reaction is out of proportion. Others argue the pattern feels too unusual to ignore, especially when placed alongside what Justin Bieber himself has shared in the years since. In 2020, Justin gave an emotional interview in which he spoke about Billie Eilish. He said he wanted to protect her from the industry and from the kinds of things he had personally gone through. He became visibly emotional on camera and broke down. He did not name names. He did not go into specifics. But his pain was real, and it was clear. That kind of reaction does not come from a single moment. It felt like the weight of years, of pressure, confusion, and experiences no young artist should have had to carry alone. At the time, the interview was seen as heartfelt and genuine. Now, people are rewatching it and asking what he may have been trying to express beneath the surface. Adding to the conversation, Justin appeared on a track from Sean Combs' album titled Moments. That collaboration happened before the lawsuit involving Cassie Ventura, before the widely circulated surveillance footage, and before the federal raids that followed. The case was reportedly settled, but public attention had already intensified well beyond what any settlement could quiet. Right now, Justin Bieber is in a completely different chapter of his life. He is a first-time father, focused on family rather than headlines. A source close to him says he is aware of the ongoing discussions surrounding Sean Combs, but does not want to be consumed by them. The same source describes him as being in a private, family-focused space since the birth of his son, prioritizing fatherhood, his marriage, and his home life. That decision is understandable. After spending the better part of his life under intense public pressure, stepping back to protect personal peace is not just reasonable, it is necessary. But even with that distance, speculation continues to grow. A recent video from his father-in-law Stephen Baldwin added more fuel to the conversation. In the clip, he speaks in vague terms about a calm before the storm. He does not mention names or point to specific situations, but the timing led to immediate online interpretation. Some believe it was a subtle reference to current events. Others think it was a general statement taken out of context. Either way, in the middle of an already charged discussion, people found meaning in it. What is clear is that even as Justin Bieber tries to stay removed from the controversy, his name remains part of it. His past connections are being re-examined. His silence is being read in different ways. And even those closest to him have been pulled into public debate. It is a difficult position. He deserves privacy and the space to focus on his life as a father. But public curiosity about the early entertainment industry and its power dynamics is not going away. And while Justin's experience continues to be discussed, many people are also revisiting the role Usher played in his early career. From the outside, Usher has long been seen as the mentor who helped open doors for Justin. He gave him access, direction, and visibility at a crucial stage. But what often gets left out of that narrative is Usher's own early experience in the industry, and how that history may have shaped the environment he later helped create for others. Usher was just 13 years old when he reportedly went to live with Sean Combs. It was presented as a learning opportunity, a chance to absorb the music industry from someone who had already built an empire. But Usher himself has spoken in interviews about that time in a way that sounded intense and, at points, deeply uncomfortable. He has not directly described abuse, but the way he reflected on those years suggested an environment that was chaotic and far from appropriate for a child. He has mentioned parties, adult settings, and situations he later admitted he did not fully understand at the time. He was too young, he said, to process what he was being exposed to. That so-called training environment was not focused on chords and lyrics. It was about exposure. Exposure to excess, to control, and to a culture where boundaries seemed to blur and rules did not always seem to apply. And while Usher later tried to address it with humor, the experience marked an early chapter in a pattern that has since been widely examined in connection with Sean Combs. When Usher was once asked directly whether he would ever send his own children to stay with Sean Combs the way he once did as a teenager, his answer was immediate and unambiguous. Absolutely not. That response, simple as it was, says a great deal about how his view of that period has evolved. It may have been framed as part of the artist's journey back then. But now, with more details coming to light, even those who once defended it are taking a step back. Years later, Usher crossed paths with a young Justin Bieber and helped shape his career in many of the same ways his own had been shaped. He became a mentor, a guide, and in some ways a protector. But in introducing Justin to the same world that had once consumed him, Usher may have, whether knowingly or not, repeated a cycle. Justin, like Usher before him, was placed in close contact with Sean Combs as part of his early development. Not just for a brief meeting or a single studio session, but for full weekends, extended stays, and extended one-on-one time. The public was told this was simply how the music business worked. But now, in light of everything that has come out, people are asking different questions. What kind of mentorship takes a teenager out of his home and places him into the private world of a powerful adult with complete control over his surroundings? What kind of development environment allows a child to be immersed in settings designed for adults? What were these young artists actually being taught, and who was truly looking out for them? Looking back now, it is hard not to feel a deep sense of unease. The signs were there, but the attention was not. Some people argue that Usher had genuine knowledge of how that world operated, and that with that knowledge comes a level of responsibility. As the public connects different moments across different timelines, others believe his role in the larger story is more complicated than it first appeared. He may have believed he was helping, guiding, opening doors. But critics argue that in doing so, he was still operating within a system that had shaped him from childhood, one he had never truly stepped outside of. That does not necessarily imply intent to harm, but it does raise difficult questions about awareness, influence, and the duty of care that comes with bringing young people into that world. At the same time, others push back entirely on this line of thinking. They argue that many of these conclusions are being drawn in hindsight, using selective clips and shifting context rather than verified evidence. With so many voices, perspectives, and theories circulating at once, the conversation keeps expanding in different directions, making it harder to separate what is known from what is assumed. What began as a discussion about one person has grown into something far wider. A broader reckoning with the entertainment industry, its power structures, its silences, and the way stories get reframed once enough time has passed and enough pressure has built. Old footage is being revisited. Past associations are being scrutinized. Figures who were once celebrated are now being questioned. Justin Bieber's name keeps coming up in these conversations. So does Usher's. Largely because of how early they both entered the industry and how visible their connections were during their younger years. But it is also important to distinguish between what has been confirmed and what remains in the realm of speculation. Much of what continues to circulate online is still part of broader allegations, interpretations, and ongoing debate rather than fully established fact. In Justin's case, he has not made detailed public statements addressing many of these specific narratives. His representatives have emphasized that he remains focused on his family and personal life. Usher, likewise, has not publicly confirmed the claims being circulated in the way online discussions often suggest. Even so, the conversation keeps growing. Fueled by resurfaced clips, old interviews, and renewed attention on the dynamics that defined a certain era of the entertainment industry. And as it does, People keep returning to the same question. What really happened behind the scenes? And how much of it was ever truly visible to the public? If anything, this entire situation has opened up a larger and long overdue debate. One about power, responsibility, and what it truly means to protect young artists navigating an adult world far too soon. The conversation has moved beyond entertainment. It has become about accountability. And audiences are no longer just watching the spotlight. They're questioning everything that existed just outside of it. If this story made you think, drop your thoughts in the comments below. And if you want to stay on top of stories like this one, make sure you are subscribed.